Today's video, we're going to talk about why you don't want to do conversion value adjustments in your Google Ads account until you have this missing information that isn't posted anywhere else online. Now, you can make a lot more money from Google Ads if you've ever made an error with your conversion data, which we all have, by using conversion adjustments. And I'm going to talk about exactly how you could do that on this video. And if you stay to the end of the video, I'll also tell you exactly how much from a case study where we corrected the conversion data and actually ended up making a lot more money in the process that we wouldn't have otherwise made, okay? But more importantly, in addition to that, I'm gonna explain how to actually do this so you get those results for yourself, given that you can actually update conversion data, you could add missing conversion data, you could remove conversion data. You can do all three of those things technically, which nobody else is talking about. Other guys are going to say that you can edit, but you can actually upload new stuff that's missing using the technique I'm going to share on today's video. So of that, I'm going to go through how all that works on this video. So getting into the content, sometimes you need to update your conversion data in your Google Ads account because you screwed up. You double counted conversions, or you just didn't capture them at all, okay? If you haven't seen any of my other videos, and you don't know too much about Google Ads, you should absolutely know that all of your results in Google Ads, most of it, is predicated on the right conversion data getting into your ad account. The quality of the conversion data and the volume of it will both affect your results more than anything else in your account over time. Okay, so when I say amount of data, that means tracking more of the conversions, adding micro conversion data, not just tracking sales, but tracking phone calls as well to add extra data to steer your ads with. And then of course the quality. Are you actually getting 100% of the data tracked, consistently tracks the same way, or is it sporadic? Is it gonna once in a while only give 100% of your data and once in a while it's 70%? And does it fluctuate, which will really confuse the algorithm that's there to get your results? Because ultimately, just to break this down in a simple way, Google tracks all their users on tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of levels. In terms of what you do, what you like, what you say. If you got a phone in your pocket, they're spying on you all the time. And when you send data to Google saying somebody was an interested prospect, they look at all those 100,000 factors that person has. They compare it to all the other customers that you've had in the past, as well as the non-customers. And they're able to steer your account in the direction of more customers, better customers over time that way, ultimately. And this is why when you're advertising and your tracking breaks, your results go back. It's horrible in terms of how much money you're making. And that's all because of the learning mode and how much your account, the results you're getting is predicated on the data that you've amassed in your account over time. So it's to your advantage to do your tracking as best as you can, set up mini goals, backup goals, all that stuff I've talked about in the past. But in addition, when you really screw up your tracking data, consider fixing the data, not just say, oh, wait, the tracking is now fixed. Whatever was in there before that was screwed up, we'll leave that data the way that it is, which you'll, of course, recover your account that way, but you won't recover it at nearly as fast, and your spend isn't going to recover as fast. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. But bottom line, though, if you are going to be in position to correct your conversion data when you got a problem, when you double counted, when you didn't count enough, you need to put certain actions and things in place in your account in order to do that, which, by the way, it's not a matter of if or when, or should I say if you have a problem with your conversion tracking. It's just a matter of when. Everybody has issues with conversion tracking because Google system's updating, your website's updating. For that reason alone, it'll break. If you got web developers changing stuff on your site, that can break the tracking. I don't care how good you are about tracking how good your developers are. Your tracking is going to break at some point in time, and your results are going to go haywire. And if you want to recover faster, you want to have this as a part of your arsenal, and you want to get these things up in place first so that when it does happen, you can actually do it versus you have no option because you didn't do this short list of things up front for your business when it happens, which in addition to this, you should have backup goals, of course, as I've talked about in other videos, so that when your primary goal breaks, you can immediately switch to the backup one that tracks basically the same thing at the same level. so that you don't go back into learning mode. Because once you go back into learning mode, your campaigns are going to probably get half the profitability as they were before. And, the bigger, screw up with the data, if you will, the longer it's going to take to recover. So with that said, these 3 things here that you need to have to be in position to later fix your conversion data. Tell Google, hey, this was not the right data. Add stuff, remove stuff, edit stuff is as follows. Number 1, you're going to need to add a offline conversion goal to your account. This is specifically for when your conversion goals that you have now do not count conversions like it's supposed to. This offline conversion goal is to track, for sales that occur offline. That's what it's called. But in your case, you're going to be using this to later on upload conversions that you didn't capture via your online conversion goal, if you will. And you could do this with your cart tracking goal that tracks cart purchases. You can do this with your form tracking goals itself. You technically could do it with any of the conversion goals that you have. You set up offline conversion goals for each goal that you want to be able to, if your conversion data isn't being tracked, then you can later on upload it via this backup goal. So let's say you have one purchase tracking goal that tracks cart purchases. You set up an offline conversion goal that tracks the same thing offline, so that if the sale doesn't get picked up by your cart, you can upload it through that separate goal. That's specifically what I'm talking about here. In addition to that, add a transaction ID code to the site, specifically because you cannot correct conversions unless you have the Google Click ID. And once in a while, you can't get the Google Click ID, even if you want to or you're trying to capture it, because Google doesn't give it to you. Unlike 10% of the individual clicks that come from Google ads, you will get a G braid or W braid, which is, people basically on Apple devices. I won't get into details on that, but about 10% of your clicks or your conversions aren't updatable unless you are grabbing the transaction ID from the user and then sending it to Google. So essentially, they'll break this down here real simply here. The transaction ID should just basically be the ID that you associate with somebody who comes to your website, buys, or order ID, if you want to call it that, in your Shopify account. This is for, basically for cart purchases. In Shopify, there's an order ID. You want to send that order ID to Google Ads to store it, so that later on, if you need to say, hey, this customer did not really buy, or they bought a different amount, or they got a partial refund, I want to update this, you can do it. And you could have somebody that you can cross-reference in their system, if you will. So generally speaking, Google gives you this transaction ID code, you put it on your webpage, and what it does is it allows you to take that transaction ID that you assign to your customer, sends it to Google, so that if later on you got to retrack that conversion, you reference that same transaction ID, so to say. So at least for the cart purchases, you can actually still correct the cart purchase data, which is the most important data to track, by the way, out of all the goals. It's way more important than form tracking goals, even though you should still track that too. And so that in the case you need to correct a conversion goal, the 10% of the people that you do not get a Google Click ID from, you can still correct that conversion goal because you have the transaction ID. And then also capture the Google Click ID from the cart user. So, in terms of the cart checkouts that you get, you want to modify your shopping cart so that you're getting the Google Click ID when somebody checks out. Because as long as you get the Google Click ID and you want to update a conversion, you could give that Google Click ID back to Google and they'll know who you're talking about. The Google Click ID is just in the end of the URL bar when somebody gets to your site. I mean, you literally can click your own ad or somebody else's ad, see the Google Click ID is in the end of the URL. All you're doing is modifying your shopping cart to grab the Google Click ID and then put it in with the customer record, so that if you want to say, hey, this guy did not buy, or you got a refund, or whatever you want to do, for whatever reason you're correcting the conversion, you can just say, hey, this Google Click ID from this guy, hey, he actually spent half as much, and then you can be able to do it. And then the fourth thing I technically should have had on here but didn't is using a CallRail account so you can get the Google Click ID for every phone call, every form fill on your website as well. So that ultimately, if you need to because what you're going to do is take the Google Click ID, give it back to Google, say, hey, these were conversions that came through but are not tracked by my conversion goal. You can upload those to your offline conversion goal and still get those in there, or you can modify. You can say these conversion goals are different value than what I initially said they were, and so forth. So that's technically like the fourth thing, if you will, that you can do. Now, that said, okay, there's some, just as a small side, Google set up this conversion value update tool not to protect us doofuses who don't know how to set up the tracking right and make mistakes with it. It's primarily been there to update a conversion so that if somebody gets a refund or somebody buys more, then you can update the value of your conversion. Not the fact that a conversion didn't happen, but I mean, even though it's doable, but that was the primary purpose for it initially. Of which, by the way, if you're in that situation where, let's say, in the plumbing industry, to give you a direct example of this, in the plumbing industry, everybody's after these so-called sewer line repairs. They're like a $20,000 job. You get the plumbing customer looking to fix their broken toilet. If all that happens is you're going to unclog the toilet, you're going to make $100. If it's found out the sewer line needs to be repaired, it's a $20,000 job. So what you want to do is import the data about the so-called upsell to the account so that your account optimizes for these sewer line repair jobs, which it can actually do because it can look at and model the people who ultimately need a sewer line repair. They're in a certain part of the city or whatever. And so with that said, you could use this conversion update process or conversion value adjustment process, take that conversion that you initially thought it was a $100 job and update it to a $20,000 job to allow your campaigns that are optimizing for revenue and profit using maximize conversion value bidding strategy. It'll optimize it at a higher level for you, make you more money as a result, more profit as a result from your account. But I don't suggest doing that because just simply by doing that, it's going to screw with the machine learning on the campaigns you already got. So as opposed to that, what I would say is a much better option is to set up a second goal that tracks the upsell by itself. So that if you get the upsell, you send it to that other goal. That way, there's no fluctuation in your results because any change you make in Google Ads fluctuates your results. So when you update the conversion value, that fluctuates your results. Or at least not as much as sending it through a separate goal that will fire in addition to the original goal, because editing the data on an existing goal will screw the campaign up worse in terms of the sending it back into learning mode and so forth, or could send it back into learning mode. Set up the upsell through a separate goal, track it through a separate goal, just in general there. And as far as editing a conversion for a refund, to say somebody didn't actually buy, don't do that because yes, Google could optimize for people that are less likely to refund if you actually send that data back. From what I've also been able to tell, it screws with your results so much, constantly adjusting the values there, that I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it at least until you got a major problem with returns. Now, there's some industries that are very return happy, like women's apparel. 15% of people are returning shit. And it's to the point where, girls will buy 5 pairs of shoes, try them on, and be like, oh, I don't like them all, and just send them all back. And then they'll buy 5 more pair. And then it really eats into your profits, obviously, and you want to optimize around that. Now, at that point in time, if you got that issue and it's really affecting you, modify using the conversion value adjustments process that Google has. Modify your conversion value, subtract out the refund from the value of the conversion, and let the algorithm optimize around it. But unless you're in like a really extreme situation, don't do it, because the other people will also tell you it's becoming common knowledge. The less you mess with your account and your campaigns, the better off you do. You got to make changes to make improvements long term. But if you don't need to make a change and it's not critical, you don't make it, because it's always going to fluctuate your results. It's going to screw with the machine learning process itself. All right. Now, getting back to what I was saying here, once you've done these 3 or 4 things that I mentioned, you are in position to add new conversions that didn't get added to Google Ads, update conversions that didn't get added to Google Ads, or delete conversions that were already added that you want to now delete. You can do all of the above. Ultimately, adding new conversions, like I was touching on before, you're going to add it to the new offline conversion goals that you've dedicated for the conversions that did not happen. I mean, these are goals literally are exclusively there to just upload missing conversions that never got uploaded to the primary goals that normally collect your conversion data itself. It'll add, so where you have a way to add extra conversion data that'll cut down on the volatility of your account once you do upload missing conversions, okay? But in terms of the updating a conversion value to value it differently or just remove it altogether, that is going to be done through the conversion value adjustment process. Specifically, that's what that process is for, is editing and deleting, not uploading missing conversions. The offline conversion goals is for uploading missing conversions. And so that's how you're going to do it. Ultimately, what you do is you take I won't go over all the details because there's other videos about this. But ultimately, all you're doing is you're going to the uploads version or area of your Google Ads account. In the upload section, you're uploading a spreadsheet with either the Google Click ID that you've already got on hand now because you use CallRail or you collected it on your shopping cart, or you upload your transaction ID and then you tell it, hey, delete this one or edit it to this amount. And it's really that simple. Just upload it, put it on a spreadsheet, reference that transaction ID or Google Click ID, either or, and you can edit that conversion or outright delete it. Adding a new conversion, again, you're going to use the offline conversion goals and you're going to need the Google Click ID only itself. Now, if you are going to update or delete the conversion, you can use either the Google Click ID or the transaction ID. Generally speaking, when you don't have the Google Click ID, because Google is going to show a G braid or W braid in the URL in placement of the Google Click ID or GCL ID, you're going to use the transaction ID because you've collected that transaction ID up front. All right, so that's the process as a whole. Now, before I get into the case study here, where this is going to be all summarized in terms of why you want to do it and how much it's going to affect your results. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you absolutely should, because I have the best information you can find on YouTube about how to make money with ads, given I give you real case studies. I'm really in the trenches doing ad strategy for our clients on the dozens of clients that we have, which sounds not a big deal until you realize most of the people on YouTube doing content, they don't even really manage any ads themselves. They're just showmen. You're not getting real information. So if you really want to become a multi-millionaire running ads for your business, subscribe to this channel. It's the best information you're going to find. You should also check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has my strategies in a text format with images and documented there. The strategies I use to guarantee results for our clients. So if you like the channel, you should definitely check the blog out as well. If you have any questions, I've got several ways that you can contact me about this or any other question that you have. I like to communicate with my followers. You can leave me a comment, number one, or number two, you can reach out to me through my Discord group. And the link to that Discord group that I started is in the video description. There's a bunch of people in there talking that follow the channel that are talking amongst each other right now that you can also ask questions to. I also do private phone consults where, regardless if you're an agency owner, which I work with a lot of those, or a company, we can get on a private phone call for 30 minutes and I can just help you figure out what you need to do. We can communicate that way. Our primary business at our firm is not consulting though. It's done for you ad management services where we guarantee you or the client that we're working with a certain minimum result on their campaign up front. So a minimum of a certain amount of revenue or a certain amount of qualified leads before we take payment at our firm. As far as I know, no other agency out there does this, which should tell you something about the quality of the service itself. If you're interested in a similar service, I can get you an 8-quarter projection of results, what we could get for you and what we could guarantee if you reach out to my firm at guaranteedppc.com. I also have ad templates available. If you're in a market that we've already been in or a market that you're interested in, we can outright sell you the ads, the landing pages, the campaign templates that work for your market. You copy paste those into your ad account and get the same results we did in your market in another city or country that you're in without all the hard work and money that we had to spend to figure out how to do it in your market. So, and we can tell you the results you're going to get with it up front. We've been in over 100 different niche markets, so the chances are high we've already got the results you're looking for. And we also have that available too, so reach out to me if you're interested in that. Now, getting into the case study. So what we did was we had a client who double counted conversions for 30 days. Now, normally this would not go on because at our firm, we know what I'm telling you here, which is tracking is the lifeblood of the account. You know, you just really ain't going to make hardly any money, like dog shit money, if you don't track your results. And similar to that, stay on top of the tracking, because once you set it up, you can't be like, okay, I'm done. Tracking's done. You got to actually constantly be monitoring it, testing it. And that's out of all the stuff an ad agency does, assuming they will help you with your tracking, which hopefully they do, that's the number one job that they have, is to maintain the tracking. So if it goes down, it's up as quickly as it's possible, and it's always being monitored, because a lot of times your tracking can lapse where only half of it is tracked and you don't really realize it's not tracked right. Your ads are going down and you don't know why. Anyway, we had a client who came to us. They double counted conversions for 30 days. We realized that was the issue and cause of the problem. So we right away fixed their conversion data itself, but we also corrected the data because I told the client, here are our options to get this fixed. Number one, we need to work with you, of course. We need to fix the tracking, not double count conversions anymore, but we also need to correct the double counting so that the system doesn't see it if we want to get the results back where they were as quickly as possible itself. And so ultimately what we did was we took the data that they had access to and then edited the conversion data. So in this particular case, it was a lead generation account. So they didn't have to already, because by default in an e-commerce account, they're not collecting the Google Click ID on the purchases right up front. So we didn't really have to have that issue, if you will. But they had a CallRail account where we had all the call data, also the form data, all the leads that came in, and the Google Click IDs itself. So with that said, we were able to take the data, essentially, these conversions that were counted that weren't supposed to be counted, and we were able to knock off the conversions that essentially half of the conversions during that time itself to get the account back on track. And so what happened with the account during the 30-day period, roughly, that it was double counting the conversions, their profitability of the ads overall went down 47% during that time. That's how much your tracking could screw up your results just simply by double counting conversions like that. Because what it's going to do is it's going to start saying, oh, wow, these leads right here that, ultimately we didn't see that working before, they're working. Let's triple down on that and spend most of your budget there. And it really just sends everything out of whack. So it doesn't make sense why it would screw you up so bad, but it certainly does. It's mainly about machine learning algorithms rely on consistency of data. They really do. And you got to have consistency. Otherwise, the algorithm the whole reason why it got you the results it was because it understood who buys and who doesn't buy. And once it's not sure about that anymore, your results go down the toilet and in a hurry. So, I mean, not in a day, but after 2-3 days of that happening, it's already going to be screwed up. And the longer it goes on, the more screwed up it's going to be, the longer it's going to take to recover. So after 30 days, you got a lot of damage here. Anyway, so what we did is we subtracted out the unnecessary conversions. 10 days in, our profit was down more than the average we had before any of this happened than it was when we started. So we started with the 47% reduction in profitability. That went down 62% after the 10 days after the correction. So you may scratch your head and say, why the hell would that happen? Corey, you're saying this is good and it actually makes the account worse. What are you talking about here? The reality is when you make a change in Google Ads, it's going to always cause negative volatility. I don't care what change it is. If it's significant of any measure, it's going to cause negative volatility, which is why you don't want to make changes unless you have to. You're going to really well think through your changes before you do it, but you got to make changes to make an improvement in an account. With that said, 30 days after we made the adjustment to knock off the double conversions, we had a 12% increase in account profitability than our average before, which for the most part, we just brought it back to the same. Now, that may not sound like a really crazy antidote here that, hey, you did the correction in 30 days, the account's back. But I can tell you from experience, if you double counted conversions like that for 30 days, it's going to take a heck of a lot more than 30 days to get your performance back to where it was. It's going to take 60 to 90 days for that to happen. Anybody who has a lot of experience managing ads is going to tell you that. Why? Because ultimately the algorithm is just going to be confused for longer, if you will. Whereas if you rip the Band-Aid off, so to say, and just get rid of the conversion data, take the hit short term, once it restabilizes and it realizes that, this is business as it always was, it's going to come back to where it was supposed to be fairly quickly after. We're talking 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's already going to be back the way that it was versus a month plus. So from what I've experienced, it can cut down, between 1/3 and 2/3 of the recovery time by simply auto-correcting the conversions, getting rid of duplicates, adding the conversions in there that was supposed to be added accordingly. So why do you do a conversion value adjustment? You do it because of 2 reasons. A, you're going to cut down on the recovery time, okay? But B, also something else to consider here is it's going to stabilize your spend, because what happens when you double count conversions is also the spend's going to go crazy. So if your campaigns were, the daily budget on the campaigns were set pretty high, higher than what your campaign spends, it's going to start spending a ton and waste a ton of money, if you will. Ultimately, you're going to have to lower your daily budget on your campaigns just to get your campaigns to spend a normal amount again. But the performance is still going to be shit. Or if it wasn't counting conversions, it's going to be really hard for the campaigns to spend, if you will. And you may have to get rid of smart bidding to just get the thing spending what it was spending before, or you got to raise your bids a ton. So you make the correction itself, add these additional conversions. It's going to be spending what it was supposed to spend fairly quickly after like a week or 2. Or, if you get rid of the duplicate conversions, it's going to spend a normal amount again, which, you can lower your daily budgets to get it to spend a normal amount. But then also, ultimately, what it's going to do is it's still going to be pointing a good chunk of your budget to whatever it thought was working better now, which it really wasn't. And you're going to be screwed up for longer than you would otherwise, so to say. So anyway, that is in a nutshell, conversion value adjustments. Or should I say just fixing or modifying conversion data that was broken, not working right, goals that weren't conversions that weren't counted, conversions that were counted too much, conversions that were counted inaccurately. How to fix that situation, how to put yourself in position to fix this when it inevitably happens down the line, or at least just have insurance for your business so that if it ever does happen, you got your bases covered already and you know how to do it. So with that said, I'm going to wrap everything up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.